What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We have a new project coming into the shop, but first we have to take a little trip to go pick it up. So let's go hop in the truck and I'll tell you a little bit about it. All right, guys, in-cab confessions with Mikey Rolls. So I just left the shop and I'm driving an hour and a half northwest to Port St. Lucie, Florida, to pick up a new project car, which is, I believe, a 1970, 71 Chevelle, but not your standard Chevelle. This car was actually in our shop about 4 years ago. A buddy of mine from high school, Mitch and Mike, were going to be building this pretty rad Chevelle and kind of lost their love for it. The guy in Miami did a bunch of fabrication work to it, changed a lot of the body on it. It's sitting on a Roadster Shop chassis on air ride that lays frame on 26s. So this thing is bananas. Like I said, they kind of lost their passion for the project and wanted to move on, so we sold it to Brian. Brian is a friend of mine. Brian builds Lincoln Continentals. His company is called Strolix. I may be saying it wrong, maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, he has a piece of property out here, huge piece of property, where he builds Lincolns, a nice shop. They do it all, paint booths, sandblasting, the whole nine. He builds Continentals kind of back to factory standards, and like I said, 4 years the Chevelle's been sitting in his shop, and as you know, when you have customer cars, they always come before your own personal stuff. So he was at our shop a few weeks ago and asked me if I was interested in building the car for him, and of course I said yes. So we're going out to his property, so when I get out there, we'll do a little walk around of his shop and the car that we're going to be building for him. We're going to have a fun day, so let's go. All right, we have arrived at Lincoln Land. So I wasn't lying, guys. There is just Lincolns stacked up on top of each other. A couple old tractor trailers. This thing's pretty cool. Dirt bike track. I told you guys I wasn't lying. So pretty neat, man. You just put up this building here. There's a paint booth in there. Come out here, you can sandblast outside. I could spend all day here hanging out. Lincoln, 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 Lincoln. Inside of this garage here is our Chevelle project, so let's go take a little look-see. Alright, so this is a registered as a 1972 Chevelle, I believe, or 1970, on a Roadster Shop chassis. And as I said, this thing's been sitting around for a while, so a lot of surface rust on the chassis. Bunch of metal fabrication was done, transmission tunnel, new floors. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this car down and we'll kind of look at it, or we can wait till we get back to the shop. But got you know, everything that we need to get started here. So let's pull this thing down. We're gonna get it loaded up. See all this metal fab that they did. Keep your brakes cool. All these little louvers, the hood over here. Some huge louvers in the hood. It's got everything boxed up for us, our brakes, transmission, fuel cell. It's a cool little shop, man. Hellcat red eye motor, Coyote. You don't even know what he's putting that stuff in yet. But this is his shop, man. This is where he builds all his Lincolns. Got one over here on the lift, been working on. Got all these Lincoln parts. And this ain't nothing. I'm telling you. All right, now we got it down lower. So you see here, he's trying to go old school with the motor. It's a 572. Built by a NASCAR team. This thing was engine stand dynoed, made just shy of 1,000 horsepower NA, so that's pretty cool. It's got a sunroof out of a Chrysler 300. That's definitely one of a kind. It's got an Impala
gauge cluster here. Like I said, somebody did a ton of metal fabrication in here. Big old wheel tubs in the back. Everything's smoothed in. Got this scoop on the back of the rear end here. This hood probably weighs like 300 pounds. Usually this is a separate piece. This is all welded in, nice and smooth. So like I said, somebody's done a ton of work. This is all smoothed out. All these panels are all custom. So the original owner put a bunch of money into metal fabrication. Now it's time for us to get this thing done. So next step, load it up in the trailer and get it back to the shop. All right, we are about to kick off a new project in the shop. First step, we're gonna get this transmission mounted up in there so we can get our motor set, because right now it's just kind of hanging in there a little bit. We gotta get the front clip situated, and we're gonna start looking at seat fitment. Let me get this transmission up in there with some help for some friends, then we'll get this car down and start working on it. So let's go. All right, we got the transmission in place. And as you see here, now the motor is just sitting a little bit better. And we are way over the top of the hood. We got that to discuss with the owner. I went ahead and pulled out one of these slosh tub seat frames from our Continental. And I got a 1-inch square tubing underneath it to give it a little bit of framing that we could attach to the floor. And the seat could still slide back and forth. Not a whole lot of headroom above, because as you guys see, we have a sunroof, which took up a bunch of space above your head. So I don't know, I got maybe 3-4 inches above my head, and the owner of this car is about the same height, 5'10", 5'11", 5'11" on a good day. Don't make any jokes. Our transmission tunnel, I need to cut a little bit of meat off that top of that there so the shifter could sit in there correctly. Probably gonna end up getting a shifter relocation from Sicky, bringing it back towards the driver a little bit. Also the dash, from what I was told, this is a complete dash out of an Impala, like a 50s Impala. We're going to be putting in, I think, a Haltech screen in here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those, clearance the transmission tunnel, and get moving on some seat frames. So keep on chugging, chug a lug. All right, we got our transmission up in there, our shifter, we got our clearance on our transmission tunnel. So that's all situated. We got our driver's seat mocked up in here. I think it's a pretty good height. So next step is gonna go ahead and mock up a steering column. There is no hole in the firewall, so I'm about to go drill me a hole. We got a little zip tie here for a temporary hold for our steering column. That's not permanent, of course. Now I'm working on our display for our dash. Basically what we're about to do is kind of replicate that side. I'm going to close this off, so in the end the cluster will sit kind of on top of that ledge, and probably kind of recess it in just a little bit. For now I'm just going to go ahead and make this whole shape here, this whole insert, and straighten this out and just get it tacked in for now. We're just not getting enough headspace here in relation to the floor, so what we're going to do is cut along the edge, cut along there, make like a U-shaped cut, and just kind of drop this rear panel down, kind of like how the original Chevelles were. And this should drop our seat down and get us a more comfortable fit while this kind of stays up in the air. This out completely. I am going to lay out like where these structural channels were on here, so I can remake those These I'll probably have to modify them as well, kind of break a bunch of metal, some long lengths, and I'll have to cut, miter them, and sort of have them follow this roaster shop chassis here, so they fall down in the same direction. I got my floor pretty much where I want it and as low as I can go. Next thing I'm gonna do is kind of cut up this piece of, I made this channel here to kind of match this. So I'm gonna start cutting this up in sections and rejoining it on both ends and kind of taper it on the inside the trans tunnel here, make it as sort of narrow as possible. And same thing here, just start with the structure and then I can start kind of making our filler pieces for the rest of our sheet metal. Got our braces, our additions to our braces put in, tacked in. Originally this was gonna go straight across, but because we have this here, I was able to kind of, thought it was better just to kind of ramp it back up, and then we just got to add a little 1-inch filler piece there. Next thing I got to do is do this same thing on the other side, and then I'm gonna check the seat one more time just to make sure nothing interferes when we try and jog it forward and backwards. Brady is working on our floors. We went ahead and dropped the sections of the floors on the driver's side already. He's kind of finishing up all these little pieces. We just got some header material ordered, our exhaust material ordered. This is a big block, so we're going with 2 2¼ inch headers to a 4-inch oval exhaust. This is a bad car, so there's not a whole lot of room underneath here. Matter of fact, the fuel cell that normally sits here in between our frame rails doesn't really allow us anywhere to bring our exhaust out to the back of this valance. The owner really wants his exhaust tips to sit here on the valance right in the middle. So we've decided to raise the fuel cell up above these frame rails here, so that way our exhaust can come underneath our fuel cell. So I went ahead and marked here in white. The other thing is they dropped this trunk pan down lower, so the fuel cell didn't really even sit in here too well. It was slammed against this brace here. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna cut this floor out. We're gonna raise the fuel cell so it'll look kind of recessed in the trunk, and then we'll be able to bring our exhaust through the back here, just below our fuel cell. And then when it's laid out, our exhaust will still be above the ground. So we'll go ahead and drop the car down. And we got my friend Miguel over here. Everybody say hi to Miguel.
Hello guys.
Miguel's gonna go ahead and cut that floor out, and we'll get this dropped in there and figure out how we're gonna mount it. All right, we got our fuel cell basically recessed into our trunk. Basically, we're just going to modify our brackets from Roaster Shop, extending this part here, which is going to come up about 3.5 inches. We'll still be able to bolt this right onto the frame rail and bolt it onto the provided stainless steel angle that's welded onto our tank. So that none of that's going to change. We will have to redo this neck. I think it looks pretty cool back here. The owner's going to come check it out. He may want us to make this a little bit prettier and build some kind of box over it. That way we can upholster it. It can be removable. So I don't know, I think it looks kind of cool back here. We'll have a stainless tank here. we'll have our AccuAir aluminum tank, and we'll do a bunch of hard lines. I think it'll look pretty dope, but I'm gonna go ahead and get these brackets modified. That will kind of wrap this up for now, and then we're gonna start looking into cutting back some of this framing in here so we can get our exhaust, like I said, right into this valance. All right, we got our fuel cell back in the trunk where she belongs. And as you see, so our 90 that I coped, I guess it depends on where you position it. If it was sitting way down here, probably would have been all right. But as you go up on top of this radius on the fuel tank, as you see, it sends it way off. I guess I could kind of like cut the pipe here at an angle and make it straight, but I think it looks silly. So this is a 45. It's a little bit smaller diameter because it fits in the hole. But as you see, I think that's a little bit more appropriate. So we'll probably go ahead and take that 2-inch 45, go ahead and cope that, and get that thing welded on there. But next thing I got to figure out is how we're going to seal the fuel cell. Our back seat has no panel on that back, so I think that's another thing we're going to have to address. Going to probably have to weld in a metal panel back there to keep all the fumes separate from the cab of the car. I'm going to wait to weld on our fill point when I get the bung and the cap, just to make sure everything's working out correctly. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and put some tape on this, and we'll move on and look into where we're going to be mounting our air tank on that back panel right there.
All right, so because we had to raise our gas tank, next thing we did was we wanted to make a cover, something that blended in. I got this drawn out on the plasma. I'm gonna start cutting it. Still messing around with some bead roll designs, which I'll figure out later on. But for now, I'm gonna get it cut, clean it up, start drawing the bead rolls, and then I'll make my brakes and set this thing in, because we may need to trim the backside here for room for our exhaust. So we'll start with this, get it chopped up, and go from there. All right, so I bent these angles that I added in and cleckled them in. It's kind of a long shot to have the bend there, have another bend there as one piece, hoping that'll fit. So I made these so if I have to, I can drill them out, add some 1/4-inch bolts and whatnot if I gotta move this around. Next thing I'm gonna do is make these side panels here. So that should help kind of straighten everything out in the end, and then probably dry fit this again. All right, so I went ahead and laid out where our fuel pump, our sending unit is in relation to the fuel tank. Plan is cut a 1/4-inch frame. I'll spot weld and drill and tap for a cover to go over this. This way, once this is welded in, we don't have to drop the tank and make our connections. We can just easily do it from up top and no questions asked.
All right, guys, that is a wrap on the episode. I hope you guys are excited about this big block Chevelle. I know we are. We've already managed to tackle a bunch of tedious metal fabrication, like modify and drop our floor pans, a bunch of metal fab in the trunk, and we got a bunch more fabrication coming up. Like we're gonna be modifying some aluminum bomber seats for the rear seats of this thing. We got some custom 2¼ inch headers we're gonna be building, and a bunch of other stuff. So make sure you guys like and subscribe so you don't miss out on all the action. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.